into Wales. Wales through a goal, slots it beyond Foderingham, and the Millers are in front in the South Yorkshire derby. And for the first time in 42 years, Rotherham United win at Bramall Lane. On the edge of the box, the Dauphin, he can hit them, and he does. The Dauphin has scored an absolute screamer for Rotherham United. Rotherham United have secured their championship status for next season.
Do me a favour, drop me off in Rotherham.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to New York Talk. This is the Rotherham United podcast, where we talk about Rotherham United, obviously. Happy days at Saturday afternoon at New York Stadium. Plenty to cover. Still managerless Rotherham United. So we're going to dive into all this nonsense. Mick, first of all, how are we doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm. If you see me with my head tilted back for a lot of this, it's because I'm trying to keep all the beer inside that I've drunk this weekend. So, yeah. Other than that, I mean, it's been a great weekend. I had a fantastic weekend, apart from about an hour and a half on Saturday afternoon when it all went wrong.
Agreed. Best way to get over whatever an afternoon like is to spend it with people you like and that are funny and have a laugh. So, recommend that, everybody. Joy, how are you?
Dressed in black for the occasion. After driving round about, what was it, a 400-mile round trip in less than 24 hours, I'm obviously very happy to be with you this evening.
Yeah. There's a lot to cover. There's a few people mentioned the Mick Rant. I think Mick Rant fans will be happy tonight. I suspect there might be a couple. There'll be at least one. There might be a couple. We've got Gumbos with us. We said it was this afternoon. Andy P says good evening. Hope everybody's well. YouTube says good evening. Hope we have some good news. Nope. Nope. First of all, I want to start by saying thank you to Lee. Me and Mick and a few other people in the street went to watch Lee McMahon today at the Roadhouse, and he was excellent. He's not watching because he's on his Christmas do. We wanted to tell everybody, if you haven't done so already, go and check out LPMC on Spotify, iTunes, whatever, because he's great.
Yeah.
Let's get it out of the way. Let's just talk about the referee. Let's just get it out of the way. Then we can have a chat about the manager situation, the goals, blah, blah, blah. Graham Linley says, once again, the referee spoiled the game. There was another comment I can't find it. Evening, guys. Ref rant. I'm going to start with you, Joy, and Mick can have his moment in a moment. The referee had a poor game, just for me from start to finish. I don't think he was very, very good. You could argue, though, that Ayala should know better with the first one. I think the second one, having watched it back, I don't think the second one's actually a yellow card. I don't think. But technically, you could argue it either way. What were your thoughts on the big incident, really?
It just spoilt the whole game, didn't it? I mean, let's be brutally honest. After 17 minutes, we all thought, what are we doing here? Yeah. Why are we sat here? We've got another 75 minutes of whatever to come, and we know what the outcome's going to be. So, I mean, everybody dropped. The crowd dropped. The players dropped. Everybody, and that first half was a write-off. Granted, Ayala should have known better with the experiences we've had with refs this season. I mean, how many is that we've had sent off for picking the ball up? Is that the third?
I think it's the third, yeah.
Yeah. So, it's not like, we haven't had experience with this. And again, I agree with you about the second one. But, the mob-handed approach of the Swansea players, which I didn't see many yellow cards for that. And it gave him a decision to make.
Yeah.
Wrong decision, as we, Yeah, it was soft because there was a very similar foul in the second half on one of our guys that went totally remarked upon by the referee. And that's the issue, isn't it, Mick? Bloody consistency. And I'm sorry for swearing. It's lack of consistency. We're starting to get, I don't know about you guys, but I'm starting to get a really big chip on my shoulder being a Rotherham fan and referees, because I'm thinking, is it us? Is it us? Is it Rotherham? Or is it just that we get the, poor referees? I don't know, when they're dished out every week. I just don't know. It's just what we're doing here. We're talking referees again. And we shouldn't be, should we?
No. Yeah.
You know,
I
and
agree.
their first goal, you could have chalked it off for either offside or handball.
Yep.
I mean, I saw somebody said on Twitter, did that linesman have his eyes painted on? Correct. You know, and by half time, everybody was like, awful.
Yeah, I agree. And it's one of those, Mick, that we don't want to see yellow card. This is one of the things they brought in the start of the season. This new implementation, or whatever you want to call it. It obviously ran hot for a few weeks. It's gone cold. I think it's built back up. I read something a week or so ago that they're trying to bring back in this time wasting thing. If you don't have to give a yellow card, people in the comments are right. By the letter of the law, it was a yellow card. You can't say the referee made a mistake. What you can say is that he didn't have to give that yellow card. What he could have done is said, right, I've seen that. If you do that again, that's it. You're going to get a card. We weren't time wasting in the 7th minute or whatever it was. It wasn't an issue of time wasting. Obviously, it was an issue of trying to slow the game down, which warrants a conversation. We don't. It happened to us, so it's easier for us to come across as just bitter and angry and this, that, and the other. But I just hate yellow cards like that. And again, I'm not convinced the second one's a yellow card either. I think the contact is fairly minimal, to be honest with you.
I take a slightly different view for you there, Matt, and I agree that the IR's first yellow card was a yellow card by the letter of the law. Okay, but unfortunately, last week, the week before that, and so on and so forth, up until we go back as far as the Blackburn game, it's not been a yellow card. So that's the major issue for me. We started off the season with all good intentions. It's all going to get sorted out. It's all going to get done. It's going to carry on all the way through the season. Then it stops, and then all of a sudden, without warning, it starts again. And that is unacceptable. You know, if you're going to bring in a specific set of set method of dealing with an infringement of the rules, then do it all the time, not just odd occasions, not just for 6 weeks, then we'll have 3 weeks off and go back for another 2 weeks and have another 4 weeks off, because that's what's happening. And it's not good enough. It is not good enough. And the referees have only got themselves to blame when they're criticised for not implementing the rules properly and consistently. And that's the issue. So yes, it should have been a yellow card by the letter of the law this week. Tuesday might be a different story. And that's not good enough. And that is the problem. And it's not just Rotherham United. It's every single club in the Championship, League One, League Two, and the Premier League that are suffering the same way. Because these rules, laws, whatever you want to call them, have been made so complicated, so unnecessarily complicated, that every single referee seems to have a different interpretation of them and a different interpretation of a set of circumstances. And that can't be right. It can't be right for the referees. It can't be right for the players or the supporters. And as Joy said there, on 17 minutes, that game is dead. It's dead for nothing at all, unnecessarily so. You can argue, if you want, about the second yellow, whether or not it is a yellow. The referee's not giving that. He is not giving that yellow card. Right. He's surrounded and bullied by 4 or 5, probably 4 Swansea players, indicating that he should be given a yellow card. The same offence for which Fred was sent off earlier in the season. Not good enough. That's just weak on behalf of the referee there. I don't understand why that's a yellow. I genuinely don't. There's 4, possibly 5 defenders covering. There's no issue whatsoever there. It's a foul. Absolutely, it's a foul. Is it a yellow? Is it a second yellow? Absolutely not. And I don't think the referee felt that until he was surrounded and bullied into giving it by the Swansea players. So we can argue all day long whether or not it is a yellow or isn't. The bottom line is he only gave that, in my opinion, because he was bullied into it. But he shouldn't have been put in that position, because last week he wouldn't have been in that position because the first yellow card wouldn't have been given. And that is why it's so frustrating and so annoying. I mean, we'll come on to some of the other decisions in the game in a bit. some of which were just a joke. But the big talking point is the 2 yellows for Ayala. And the first one I'm not going to complain about because that's what the law says. Second one, I don't think he's even given it. I don't think he's had any intention of giving a yellow card until he's bullied into doing so. And that's just weak. That is just weak.
It'd be booking if it was a cynical foul. I didn't think it was a cynical foul. I thought I did think it was. I thought it was a genuine attempt for the ball. To be honest with you, but
yeah, well, I didn't know.
What do I know?
Yeah.
Brian says, like Roy Hodgson said, the game's going in the wrong direction. People are turning their backs on it. Sadly,
they are.
Petty rules. Gumbo says petty rules ruining football. And that's the emphasis and the idea behind all these rules changes at the start of the season was decent. It was a good idea to get rid of time wasting, this, that, and the other. But it's just ruining games. It's just unnecessarily ruining games.
No, it's not. It's not if it's implemented all the time. Because
what
happens
is it's implemented are ruined because of these petty things.
Yeah. No, listen, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. You know, Ayala picking the ball up, walking away with it, give him a yellow card. But give it him last week, give it him the week before, and the week before that. And that's the issue. It's not done consistently. Even in games, in the same game, it's not consistent, let alone across different matches, across different leagues. How can that be right? It can't possibly be right.
Yeah.
We are at least 2 points down this season because of decisions that or misinterpretation of the laws of the game by referees. It's mind-boggling. It is, honestly. You know, we're going to have another podcast just talking about non-football matters.
Yeah. Few, as you'd expect, there's splits. There's comments, people saying they were both correct. Some people saying it didn't need to be done. That's the beauty of football. There are differing opinions. We're going to talk about other refereeing decisions later in a moment. But before, a positive, one of the few positives, Joy, was up until the red card, I thought we were quite good. I said to Mick that if we play our cards right here, we'll win this game 2 or 3-0 because Swansea were on the floor confidence-wise. Obviously got some good players, but they were on the floor confidence-wise. They didn't have an obvious plan initially, and I thought they were really, really struggling. And I thought, for me, there was one way. Easy to say that, I know, but for me, that game was going one way, and I thought we put ourselves in a good position up until the red card.
I agree totally. We were on the front foot until those 2 yellow cards, and then, as I said earlier, the crowd dropped. The lads' heads dropped, you know. Initially they did, at least for the first half, until they could be got in and had a chat to at half time. But I mean, as a spectacle, Swansea were nothing to write home about, were they? They were there for the taking.
They've got problems.
They were really. I mean, even against 10 men in the second half, when we were the better side, I would suggest we were there for the taking. And unfortunately, in both goals to a degree, even though the first goal dodgy, masters of our own downfall, unfortunately, particularly with the second goal. It's just, I think we just sort of, it's only flipping beginning of December and I'm already worn out by this season and the decisions or lack of decisions. I'm just worn out by it totally. And it's like, where's the positivity coming from, and what's going on behind the scenes just adds to that feeling of whoa, you know what I mean? Yeah. The negativity. Yeah. I mean, what was interesting yesterday, and I'm just digressing a little bit, was coming out of that game, I have never known a Rotherham crowd so quiet. There were, normally there's a bit of a hubbub, whether it's criticising, the referee or players or whatever, but there was nothing. It was like dead. People were laughing and joking and not talking football, not even talking about the referee in the coming out of the West Stand where I was, and we were talking about it in the pub afterwards, and I wasn't the only one that picked up on that. I thought, what is this? Is it, have we thrown the towel in already, the supporters, with that apathetic because of what is or isn't happening either on the pitch or behind the scenes? It's just really surreal. Sorry, digress.
No, absolutely. Yeah, let's cover that, Mick. What others will talk about, I think this is important to cover. This is more important than any other referee decisions, that it was odd. There was lots and lots of empty seats at the start of the game. They gave the tenants 9,000. I assume they've automatically included all the season ticket holders in that because there weren't 9,000 people there.
No.
I guess I said to you yesterday, this season's slipping away from us already in December, and we get that feeling from the fans. What is there to get? I know there's responsibility on us as fans. I get that there is responsibility for fans and to get up and this, that, and the other. But at this point, what are we getting excited? Like Joyce says, what are we getting excited about here? There's no manager. 4 weeks tomorrow, 4 weeks on Monday since we sacked our manager. As things stand, there is no manager. There's zero communication. The players on the pitch are doing the best, but you can question everything that they're doing for most of them. This would now bottom of the league, thanks to Sheffield Wednesday picking up a late win. The negativity, or it's not even negativity, I think Joy is it. The apathy towards it is just, let's just get this season out of the way almost.
Yeah, it feels as though people have given up the ghost, and I don't think you can underestimate the effect that these last 4 weeks have had on supporters of this football club, because the complete lack of any information whatsoever coming out of the club towards supporters, and it would appear, looking at what's been said publicly by Wayne Carlisle, that lack of communication is also internal as well, and that is even less acceptable than the fans being kept up to date by the club. I feel for Sam Todd. He must be ripping his hair out because he is the one that's going to be the butt of all this. What's happening? Why isn't anybody telling us? Blah de blah. And every time he puts a social media post out, he's just getting battered by some of the imbeciles on Twitter. It's not his fault, It's not the PR department's fault. They can only do what the board instruct them to, and if you'll excuse the pun, they have taken their eye off the ball massively. It would appear. That's the only assumption that we can make, and that is going to have an effect on the crowd and people's attitude towards the club. And it's so disappointing that we've got ourselves as a club in a position where we're solvent. We're not in masses of debt, and we've got into the championship. We invested in the players over the close season, and then we sack the manager. Whether you agree with the decision or not, that is not the issue here. The issue here is what's happened subsequent to that, and that is having an effect on everybody, on all of us, and to the point where when you get a display by the officials like we got yesterday, people just think, well, what's the point? What is the point? Because we as supporters feel like we're being shafted royally from both ends.
Okay.
Maybe I could have picked a better metaphor there, but
maybe, yeah.
But you know what I mean? That's just how it feels. Nah, not happy. And none of us are, and understandably so.
Yeah, go through some comments. John Mel says, sad truth is that players are going to struggle to get out for a caretaker manager as they know a long-term situation. I think Paul Davis has put that Wayne Carlisle is a very popular guy. Which I understand. I like him, listening to him, but if might not be there in a day's time, it's easy. Our players need to do this, but it's a manager's job to manage and motivate. If there isn't a manager there, that motivation level is not going to be as high as it should be, which is then going to obviously impact performance and everything else. Phil says the atmosphere has slowly been eroded by the poor results and performances. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Even at home, it's supposed to be good. It's not great. John Morrell comes back with saying that to be this long without a manager is unacceptable, especially at this time of the season. Serious questions need to be asked of people high up. Are they going after unrealistic targets? There are rumours, and I will stress that these are rumours, that Tony Stewart is out of the country again. There's rumours.
It certainly wasn't at the game yesterday, was it?
It certainly wasn't at the game. Yeah, I don't know. Joe, you better not be with us for a few weeks. This I can only think of the word as managerial search has been an absolute shambles. And if it is Liam Richardson, which we all think it is, then he's walking into an absolute shell of a football club, because, like we've already mentioned, there's nothing there. There's no positivity. When you normally get a new manager and there's this buzz around the place, even if it's not not exciting, but there's normally that buzz around the place where something exciting could happen. If he gets announced tomorrow, we'll all just be sort of like, oh, that's good, we've finally got somebody in. There won't be much excitement levels there. And that's not Richardson's fault either.
No, I mean, it's not going to be an auspicious start for him, is it? I mean, he's on whoever comes in, whether it's him or another, they're on a hiding to nothing, aren't they? Let's be honest. We're bottom of the league. Unfortunately, our performances have dropped off the cliff edge. We've got some good players, and you. But like we've touched on today, it just seems the apathy around the whole club is just tangible. It's. I mean, I'm sat here sighing because I can't think of anything to say that's not been said or covered on social media, on this podcast already. It's like, what can I say? What can we all say? We're waiting for a decision to be made, which, according to some on social media, has already been made and should be shared with the rest of us tomorrow. It's been alluded, I see as well, that there's going to be a director of football.
Hopefully.
Yeah, as well as a coach, because that's what that person would be then, wouldn't they? They'd just be the coach, So maybe is that going to be a positive in the long run? I don't know. We've got to try something different, haven't we?
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Are we going to reconsider again now that Alex Neil's been sacked today? He's got back to championship experience, hasn't he? Are we going to go for a 37th or 40th round of interviews? Who knows? We don't know, do we? And that's the problem, isn't it? We don't know. The response from the club is deafening in its silence, isn't it?
It is, sadly. Just on Mike's comment, Mike says he's put, we as supporters think we are being drafted on both ends. Sorry, Mick, I'm one of those fans who don't agree. It's about time we all went on a referee's course. It's just how we feel. We'll come on to some other very poor refereeing decisions in a moment. We haven't finished, sadly, on the referee side of things. But it's just how you feel. When we were all sat there at the game, there was 8,000 people, how many Rotherham fans were actually there, probably less than that just felt like everything, the world was against us. And whether that's true or not, how many times have you felt something inside a stadium? You know it's not true, but it's just how you feel at the time. And it just felt like the world was against us.
That's exactly my point, and I don't want to be pedantic about it, but what I said was it feels like you're getting shafted from both ends. I didn't say we were. I said that's how it feels, particularly when you get the situation that we had yesterday. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Referees have a very, very difficult job, and it is not a job that I would be willing to take on. Not because I don't think I could do it, but because the job that they have to do with the tools that they are given is an almost impossible job. So I'm not saying we have been shafted. I'm saying it feels like it. And I'm sure there are clubs up and down the country who feel exactly the same.
Yeah. He goes back saying the team is a shambles. He says, absolute shambles. If you have a rant, Mick, more about that. What are your thoughts on the players, Mick? Because they didn't play particularly well. I don't think we played that badly against Swansea. The red card killed us, really, I think. Like we mentioned before, I thought we did okay. But the players could have done more.
I don't agree with it. I don't think the players are. I think there's a couple that we've talked about previously that are underperforming, but not that many. I mean, you can't take yesterday as a barometer. Is not a good one to take, because you're down to 10 men. You've got to dig in. You've got to stay in the game. You can't have nobody, I think, expected us to go gung ho and try and still win 3 or 4-1 with 10 men. That's not going to happen. The performances away from home, I accept that the team as a whole need digging out for that, but they know what good is ranting and raving at them, because they know that their performances have not been up to scratch. Us shouting and bawling the odds at them and calling them from a pig to a dog or whatever people want to do on social media is not going to assist in any way. All it is going to do is compound the problem. I strongly believe that this squad of players is absolutely capable of much better than they've served up this season, and they know that. They know that. So it's up to a new manager to pull them out of it. You know, I just don't agree. I think they're capable of it. I absolutely do. But I don't think digging them out is going to do us as supporters of this football club any favours. It's just, like I said, it's just going to compound it. So I agree with Mike's first comment about the referee. I agree with that wholeheartedly. The second one, I'm not personally. I'm not buying.
Yeah. Right. Let's move on to the first goal, Joy, because again, this is a refereeing incident we have to cover. Rotherham United, Swansea, and handball goals go together like a bad sandwich. It was a handball. It's difficult to say anything else. He's knocked the ball in with his hand. I can to defend the referee a little bit. It was a clever handball. You know, it was wrong side of the referee. Referee's in a position he should be, and so he's sort of behind it. And there may well have been a guy blocking the view for the liner. So I can half understand why he didn't give it. But at the same time, just when you think the world's against you, and then that goes in and it's handball, you're just sort of thinking, well, here we go.
I mean, from where we were sat, there was obviously a handball. What we couldn't work out from where I was sat in the West Stand was whether it was Rathbun that handballed it or whether it was Patino that handballed it. But obviously, seeing it back, it was, the guy that scored. And I mean, it just trickled in. Poor Victor, wrong-footed, and just like dribbling behind him, poor soul. I mean, there's nothing much that he could have done about that. I mean, it's just the luck that we're having, isn't it, at the moment? I mean, we that first half was, it was an awful spectacle. I don't think I've ever been so bored at a football match. From both, Swansea weren't particularly pulling their trees up. So when you look at that squad that they've got, they look like a team, like you said, lacking in confidence after Duff leaving, and they don't know whether they're playing passing football or what they're doing now. I get that, they lack identity as well, I think, from their experience with Duff in charge. So they were there for the taking, and we did start off really well. As we said, the 2 yellow cards killed it. I mean, I couldn't see where we were going to get anything back, and then what was it, the 43rd minute? Something like that. It was in injury time, wasn't it? Because I'm thinking, let's hold on to half time, get the lads in, get some, chatting to them, get them G'd up a bit, 10 men and all that. We've seen performances at Rotherham with 10 men where we've won, backs against the wall jobbies, and then that happens. I mean, it's a killer, isn't it? Just before half time, it shouldn't have been a goal. Shouldn't have stood.
No. Yeah,
and then and then Patino just ran off like, thinking he'd scored a worldie, and that's what goals are, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. Make anything on Josh summed up pretty nicely there. I don't know what more you can add, is there? Because it's that ball. It's that ball.
Yeah, well, you could also have the offside before as well if you wanted. But
exactly.
Unfortunately, the liner didn't see that because he's literally 5 or 6 yards behind the last man. And again, that is absolutely unacceptable at this level. We see it time and time again, particularly yesterday with that liner. He was just no way up with play at any point. And I don't know how many times, maybe Mike can explain this one to us. How many times this season do we see, this is no good for the audio listeners, but you'll see a free kick that's going to come into the box. There's a straight line of players right across the 18-yard box, and you see the linesman stood a couple of yards in front of that line, ahead of that line, leaning, looking along it. And then quite clearly yesterday, that's what's happened with this referee. This linesman, sorry, he's behind the play. He's consistently behind the play. So there's no way he's going to spot the offside, and there's no way he's going to spot the handball because he's too busy trying to make his way up the line. He was very, very poor on that side, on the family stand side. And given the manner that handball that goal was scored. I mean, he's punched it in above his head. It's unacceptable. Unacceptable.
I mean, don't you think we should have had an idea of what was likely to happen when he came out in the first half without his flag?
Yeah, that was yeah.
I mean, he'd be better off. I mean, let's be brutally honest. For the
Should
amount of
be
times
well,
he used it for effect, he might as well have not fetched it out, might they? You know. I mean, what linesman or assistant referee comes on the pitch without his flipping flag? What plonker!
John Morell says it's an optical illusion, Mick. You're just too many beers deep.
Yeah, that might be right, actually, yeah.
We move into the second half, Mick. Shelley wants to go now. I'm going to disagree. She says, Sean Morrison's never, ever been a footballer. It's worse now. We've got no defenders. Where's Jake Hull these days? Can't be any worse, surely. I thought we defended quite well in the second, especially in the second half. I think first half less so. We'll talk about the second goal in a minute because that's an individual error. But I thought the defensively dug in really, really well. We frustrated them. We allowed them to have the ball in front of us, but they were never going to hurt us from what they were doing. And I thought Sean Morrison was key to that. And Sean Morrison should have come on as soon as Ayala went off. That should have been an instant substitution for me. I thought that don't get me wrong, Sean Morrison has some stinkers, but I thought he marshalled the defence really, really well. And I think the defence, I know we lost the game, but I think the defence have earned some credit for the way they were basically pretty solid.
Yeah, I thought so. I've been a critic of Sean Morrison, and you know, I've questioned his commitment to the cause and so on and so forth. But I thought it was all right yesterday. And I think Shelley mentioned it earlier in the comments. He couldn't understand why he brought him on. I mean, what he did was he enabled him to put Hakeem Adofin further up the pitch, which is where we needed him, because he gives us that attacking threat that we didn't really have in midfield. So yeah, I thought defensively we were pretty sound, with the exception of that mistake that led to their second goal. But as you said, they were there for the taking. Particularly 11v11, we win that game hands down. I'm absolutely convinced of that. You know, they were definitely there for the taking, and the fact that we managed to equalise, albeit allegedly. I mean, I've watched it 3 or 4 times and I can't see the handball, but we're saying it came off Nombe's hand. If it did, it did. Then that's the justice. But it should have been disallowed if that's the case. But yeah, I defensively, I thought we weren't too bad, and they were never going to realistically, were never going to hurt us unless we made that mistake.
Yeah. Gumbo says he thought in the circle Sean Morrison was man of the match, which is fair enough. Interesting. Then comes the goal, Joy, and this came with the defending quite well. I thought we defended well in stages, and then when we attacked in bursts, and we attacked with a decent amount of energy. I'm not sure how exactly the goal, but it came off Nombe. It was again as scrappy as their first goal, but Nombe celebrated like a true striker. He had no idea what happened, but he still gave it the big one to the crowd, claiming the goal. And to be fair, he deserved the goal. I thought Nombe was my man of the match. I thought he led the line really, really well. And bear in mind, the service he had was 0. I thought he did really well.
Yeah, I mean, he came out on fire in the second half, didn't he? Yeah, I thought he was really good. And he had, a couple of reasonable attempts at a shot at goal and what have you. I mean, let's be honest, they said that Rathbone had scored it, didn't they? And we were all looking at it. We could see it with Nombe from here, But, what do I know? And then, and at that point, people around me were of the opinion that we were going to go on and win that game.
Yeah.
They could see us sneaking it and doing a 2-1 or whatever, and then they got the other end. Peltier does a, Inspector Gadget long legs job when he would have been best leaving it, because I think Victor had got it covered, and that it deflects, and a former member of our parish is there to just tap it into the net. Of course, it was written in the stars.
I've got something to blame. It's always nice to blame somebody for this. Move on to the second goal now. The guy sat next to us said about 10 minutes before, as Jerry Yates came on, "Oh, he's not scored against us before, has he?"
Yeah.
10 minutes later.
There we go. And it was just by magic.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. What I'm to enjoy there, Mick, that I thought we were going to go in and win that game. I thought we were the team that had an idea, and that's. I don't think it's harsh on Swansea, to be honest with you. I thought they knocked the ball fairly well in really safe places, but I thought they looked really, really toothless, and it caused a scrappy handball goal for the first one, and a really bad mistake from Peltier for them to get their 2 goals. That's really. We could talk about the referee situation, this, that, and the other, but it's just those things were just minor decisions like from that with Peltier that's obviously costing us the games. And the life was sucked out. It was on 17 minutes. It was sucked out again when that second goal went in.
Yeah, it was. And then we tried whenever we tried to get back in the game, we got blown up for daft fouls or daft free kicks or whatever. And I mean the penalty shout. I don't know what's going on for that. I said at the time you weren't sure at the time. And how nobody's seen that. It blows my mind. It really, really does, because the linesman's got a clear, unobstructed view of that. The referee can see, surely from his position, can see the Swansea player's arm fly back as the ball hits it. Well away from his body. I don't understand. I mean, I get it. I know that that's not going to be given because it's us. That's how it feels. That's not right. I accept, but that's how it feels. So that again has an effect psychologically on you. So yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff in there, and you get a little bit of momentum, and then it's taken away from you. We're pushing forward. Seb Revan gets pulled back by the arm, probably 2 or 3 yards away from the referee. It's not given. The ball flies up in the air, and a Dauphin backs into a player. That is given. We've got some momentum at that point, and then it's gone again. Jamie Lindsay is trying to win a ball with his head.
Kicked in the head. Yeah,
he gets kicked in the head. It's not given, and 2 seconds later, there's a minimal contact foul that is given the opposite way, and all these things start to drag the momentum out of the game, and it just sort of feeds that feeling of what is the point, And I know that's not right. I'm not saying it's deliberate. I'm not, but the bottom line is it's a cumulative effect across the game. It's you're always on a hiding to nothing with 10 men anyway. And had we got a draw out of it, I think that would have been a deserved draw, but it probably arguably would have been a lucky one as well. But it's soul destroying, really.
It really is. Yeah, it is. We have a positive.
Can I make a suggestion here? I mean,
absolutely.
It's soul destroying when Victor the Cat Johansson makes saves like that, which was absolutely out of the world. Don't know how he managed to claw that one off the line, but you know how agile.
Yes. Well, Mike Miller's saying here.
That.
But Mike Miller says blazing shaft of sunlight among all the gloomies, our goalkeeper. For all players, were a team as good as this guy, would be sitting top of the league by a mile, I would add. It was excellent again, Joy. It's Victor being Victor, and I always feel like we don't give him enough praise. I know we probably do, but I don't feel we don't because he's just doing what he does, and he was busy. He was very, very busy, and you can't fault him again. You can't fault. He's conceding all these goals. You can't fault him for any of them, really, can you?
Yeah. That save, though, that was in, wasn't it? I don't know where his arm came from. That was his expected gadget as well, wasn't it? Telescopic arms. I mean, I think I can pull some positives out. I mean, I thought Jamie Lindsay being back was positive. I thought Nombe's second half was positive. Hack's always a positive. It's not all doom and gloom. I thought the way we were set up in that first 10 minutes was working well. The way the team was set up worked well. But unfortunately, after 17 minutes, it all went pear-shaped.
Yes, it did. 8 points is now the gap. Phil says, guys, the truth is we aren't good enough. No matter how many excuses we put forward, if, as you say, we have a squad good enough for the players, good enough for the players, then players and managers should be criticised. Well, that's why managers got sacked. That's why we've lost a manager. You can't sack the players. And we have sat here before, and you've on social media, players have been criticised, and rightly so, some of them. It's 8 points, Mick. We were 4 points adrift when Matt Taylor got the sack. We all sat here and said it's probably the right thing to do because we don't want the gap to get silly. You know, we don't want to be sitting here with an 9 point gap and then have to change and then go through a recruitment procedure. We're 8 points adrift and we still don't have a manager at the moment. The plight seems almost impossible one at this point. I know it's not impossible. Sheffield Wednesday have shown 7 points in the last 3 games. It's not impossible.
No,
but it does feel on the brink of impossible.
Yeah, it does. It does. And to find ourselves in the position that we're in, I need to be careful because, I mean, I've said this to you privately. You know, you have spent many years, quite a few years, building up the reputation of this podcast, particularly with the club. And you know, you've got a very good relationship there, and we get players on and everything else. So I need to be very careful in how much we criticise the club, really. But we are not an official Rotherham United podcast. So there's a certain amount of leeway, and I'm going to take that because the position we are in at the moment is inexcusable, absolutely inexcusable, and it's down to the top brass, the hierarchy of this football club, leaving us 4 weeks, two of which were an international break, so we didn't have a game. 4 weeks and 4 games managerless, and that is not acceptable. It's not acceptable in anybody's book. Whatever the reasons are for it, we can only speculate. We've all got our own ideas of what it is, of what's happened. But one of the reasons that we find ourselves in the position we are now, bottom of the league, 8 points adrift of safety, is due to the fact that we've managed 2 points out of the last 4 games. At least 2 of them, possibly 3 of them, were winnable games. You know, and it's not good enough, and that has to be, or the fact that we have a no manager is a significant part of that. Tony Stewart and the people who are on the similar level to him really need to take a long, hard look at themselves, the way that they've handled this, because it is not good enough. It's unprofessional. It's amateurish, and I expected far better from the people who are in charge of our club, far better, because they've made some very good decisions over the years. But this is not acceptable at all, and they have to take a significant portion of the responsibility for the position this club finds itself in the league. Over and above, obviously, the performances on the pitch, which had also not been good enough. But
yeah,
you know, a good portion of the blame sits in that boardroom, and then really need to take a look at themselves because it's unacceptable.
Mike says the owner is treating his club with utter contempt, letting down the staff, players, and the fans. CJ says it's not acceptable at any club under any circumstances. John Morrell says agrees with you, Mick. The league is brutal, and the lack of movement on the manager is just giving rivals a head start in games. You could say Brian Vernon goes a step further and says it's Ken Booth all over again. Saves that club and then years down the line gets toxic. Joy. It's bad. It is really bad. I've seen that Rob State and I think Paul Davis have mentioned that they've essentially asked for interviews with Tony Stewart, and since the Sky interview, he decided to keep his counsel, or whatever the phrase that they used, which is understandable. That's sort of fine if you want to do that. I said this a week ago, I got a bit of stick from a few people saying we want a statement or a conversation or something from the club to say, yeah, we've been turned down by X amount of people. There's an issue with the recruitment process or whatever it might be. There is zero, and we're just all sitting here thinking, We're allowing ourselves to create our own narrative in the head where the narrative should be coming from the club saying X, Y, and Z is happening, or we're going to wait. We're going to get Carlisle till February, whatever the case may be. The lack of conversation, but you know what I mean. The lack of communication from the club is baffling.
But this is what I said earlier. The response is deafening. There's nothing. It's a vacuum. And what happens in a vacuum, isn't it, is that everybody makes up their own, like you said, their own narrative. So my opinion and my perception of things is different from yours, is different from Mick's, but is equally valid because nobody is giving us any steer on what is, the situation. So we're all filling in the blanks. It's like having a big crossword, isn't it? Without any clues.
Yeah.
And you hit the nail on the head, Mick. It's amateurish. I remember when I came on here last time, it was just before Taylor got the push. And we were all saying it was a good time to do it because we were coming up with a 2-week break. And I remember saying the club must have an idea of whom is likely to be coming in. They must have some irons in the fire. Well, how wrong was I? I mean, if they did have irons in the fire, they obviously melted because, nothing's happened. And it just beggars belief, doesn't it? It's 2023, not 1923. And it feels a little bit like that, doesn't it? If that makes sense, it feels a bit like a self-made Yorkshireman man, owning a club, and I don't want to say this, but it smacks of a bit of a fiefdom. I'm, it's my club. I shall run it as I see fit to run it. Yeah. And I don't want to say that for Mr. Stewart because, he has put a lot of money into the club. He's been around, he's saved the club. And I think that comment earlier it's verging on the truth, around about, when Boothie came in and did something similar. And that ended up very toxic. And it shouldn't end up toxic for Mr. Stewart because he has, like we said, he's made some good decisions. We've had some cracking times, particularly since we moved to New York. Let's not forget all the good times we've had, and we've got to be careful that we don't chuck the baby out with the bathwater and alienate the owners.
Yeah.
So we're not going to get billionaire sheiks knocking on the door, are they? They're beating a path to Rotherham, are they?
Maybe that's what he's in Dubai for. Maybe he's trying to get some investment. It might be working.
Possibly.
I mean, that's
not. No, he's probably just on holiday.
Yeah. John says again. We have to stress this is a rumor that he's gone to Dubai. John says if it's a sign off on a deal before going, it's fine. But if the deal hasn't been done for Liam Richardson and he's gone away, John says unacceptable. We will find out. We'll find out in the next. Honestly, no idea. To be honest with you, I don't want putting timescales on things. To be honest with you, where are we? I have a comment I want to go through. But sorry, Ogden said I feel really sorry for Wayne Carlisle. He needs to know he has family and will need to plan too. Yeah, somebody else who comes out with a shining ray of positivity is Wayne Carlisle. I know he's in a tough situation, but every interview he's done has been a positive interview. He seems a good guy. He's away from his family. Bear in mind, his family's I think in Devon, so he's working away from his family when he probably wasn't expecting to because he was with Matt Taylor. This, that, and the other. We also don't know what Wayne Carlisle's next role will be. Will it be back with Matt Taylor with Bristol Rovers, or will it be up here with a new manager? Time will tell. We'll see. We will we'll see. Shelley says emergency pod if announced. Yeah, we've had an emergency podcast ready to go for about 3 weeks. Hopefully we'll get to do one at some point. Yeah, I don't know. Anything else? We're going to briefly talk about the West Brom game, which again is going to be a difficult game to preview, to actually. But anything else you want to mention from the Swansea game before we move on?
No, I don't think so. I know there's a lot of comments in there, sort of calling out the players as well, and that, we've talked about that till we're blue in the face in terms of some of the poor performances that have been put in. I'm sure they're aware of that. I'm sure that the board are aware that they look amateurish, given what's gone off. And we're doing is kind of pointing out the obvious. We all know the players need to put in better performances. We all know the board needs to put in a better performance. We all know we as supporters have to put in better performances at matches as well. You know, it's just very, very difficult, I guess, for us all in different circumstances because of the situation we find ourselves in. But what we shouldn't be doing as a board or as a team or as a set of supporters is just compounding the problem. And unfortunately, that's what we're doing at the moment, all of us.
Yeah, I was thinking, put this earlier. Was there communication from the board prior to the Taylor announcement? Yes, there was. There was a Rob Scott interview. I'm pretty sure Tony Stewart went on the radio as well. That was obviously a short period, so it's easier to, if it's only a week, one interview sort of covers it. If you're on 4 weeks, then we just need a bit more information. Gumbo says it'll be interesting to see what the attendance is against West Brom. Absolutely. Again, assuming they don't automatically count season ticket holders, it will be very interesting because I don't expect a full house on Tuesday night, even if there's no manager involved. I can't see it happening, to be honest with you. We will see what happens between now and Tuesday. Let's move on to the West Brom game. First of all, mentioned the referee, Sam Barrett. We're unbeaten under Sam Barrett this season. He's refed us twice, and we've won one and drawn one. So if we pick up someone on Tuesday, he can come more often.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though. This is the third time we'll have Sam Barrett this season, but we haven't had Keith Stroud at all this season.
Oh, why have you said that?
I just wonder if they're keeping him away from us. I wonder if there's...
Let's hope so. Let's keep our fingers crossed.
It's just interesting. You get 3 from one and none from, a famous other one. Anyway, record against West Brom's not great. Only 3 wins ever against West Brom. The last one was in April last year when Hugel famously, notably, got the goals against his former club and enjoyed that. And we all enjoyed that. In terms of setup, Holly wants to say that she thinks that Ollie has been doing much better with Jamie Lindsay by his side. I agree, Joy, and I think this is a positive to come out of it. Is that Jamie Lindsay's been key to what we've done. He's been very, very good. I know they've got to be careful with him and whatnot, but he has helped Rathbone go and do other stuff. And when we were able to press, Ollie starts it, and he's excellent, and that's because of what Lindsay's allowing him to do.
I mean, that's what I said earlier. Out of the positives, a few positives is Jamie Lindsay being back in harness. We've missed him. I mean, let's be brutally honest. Was it the last season before the season when we were in the Championship? He was the player of the season, wasn't he?
Yes.
Was that the COVID season, I think?
It was, yeah, excellent.
He was excellent that season. He was, popping up and getting the odd goal as well. He was, really, on the top of his game, and we've missed him. I think we've missed him because he didn't figure much last year either, did he? But that competitive skill, I think it gives, like you say, Ollie a little bit more free rein as well to go forward, because in that second half he was forward in quite a number of situations, and I think him being involved prior to the goal, wasn't he, on the left? So it having Lindsay allows Ollie to go further forward, which is good because he can get you in situations and get a few goals himself. So yeah, I totally agree with that. I think they work well together. I mean, when initially I couldn't work out how they would, but they do work well together.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, when Hacks moved in there as well, I mean, it's quite a tasty midfield in sense of it's very physical.
Yes.
They're very busy group of guys, those 3. And, I'd be quite happy to have them in my team, every week. Because as well as that, there's the comments going about, well, I don't think this, but people saying players aren't bothered, players don't care. You can see that they do care, and those 3 particularly do care. You can't say that they don't. And it's quite, I mean, let's be brutally honest, when we scored yesterday, we weren't a player, were there, that weren't running around with their arms up in air. So I don't know where that comes from, but it doesn't feed into the narrative, does it, if you want to be negative that players are given up? I can't tell me our lads like being, beaten week in, week out.
Yeah.
Not at all.
No, exactly. I just think they're lost. I think they just lost and hurt. mentally probably damaged as well from the
there's a
season they've had.
psychological aspect to it, isn't there? Let's be
Yeah.
honest, particularly away from home. And I think I
Mm.
said this right at the beginning of the season when we weren't winning away, that, I think I said we needed to ditch the black shirt and get a psychologist in. Well, they put
Yeah.
the pink shirt on and that didn't make any difference. So we went to the red one and that didn't make any difference. But I don't know if they brought a psychologist in.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably not. I wouldn't have thought so. This is going to be tough, mate, because West Brom are a good team. I don't know lost to Sunderland at the weekend, but they got Carlos Corberán, who's now a seasoned manager, knows exactly what he wants his players to do. I think they will. If they're not in the playoffs, they certainly were recently. This is going to be a tough game, and there are no free hits anymore. We're not 16th with a 3-point gap where we can just say, anyway, we're playing a really, really good team here. If we don't win, we don't have to worry about too much because we've got this. We need to win this game. There's no ifs or buts, maybe as much as we need 3 points from this game.
Yeah.
It's at home, and that's it, full stop.
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely. So that's team talk done. Whoever the manager is on Tuesday night, if they could just clip that bit, play it out in changing rooms just before the game, happy days. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And assuming we can keep 11 men on the pitch, I think we'll give them a game. You know that we'll give them a game. We've given everybody a game at New York Stadium this season, with the exception of Bristol City, because we never give them a game. That's just tradition. So, yeah, they'll be in for a tough game. They're a good side, as you said, well drilled, well organised, and on a decent run. So it's going to be tough. But we've had tougher games. We've had tougher opposition this season and played well and got results out of it. So it's nothing to be frightened of. Nothing to be frightened of at all. We'll be fine. Whether we get 3 points out of it is another matter entirely. But I think in terms of performance levels and everything else, I'm confident that we'll be all right. So they're all must-win games now, almost, aren't they? Until you can start to get back in touch or close some of that space back. We have to win them all. So it's not a great situation to be in, to be honest. But we've got to move on. So fingers crossed, we're going to have a manager in place. I mean, that'd be remarkable. I'll be surprised if I'm honest.
You don't think it'll be in by Tuesday?
It just feels like I don't know. You would have thought so, wouldn't you? Let's be realistic. You would have thought so, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's not.
Okay,
I'm disappointed. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, you're probably right. Which makes this next question, Joy, probably impossible in terms of what do you want to see on Tuesday from Rotherham United, or what do you think you'll see in terms of setup? Because we don't know whether it's going to be Wayne Carlisle or Liam Richardson or whoever.
Or me.
Or Mick.
Well, I mean, if it is a new manager that is announced tomorrow, that it's going to be Wayne Carlisle's setup, surely. It can't not be. He might not be managing it in sense, but it's going to be, I would assume, Wayne Carlisle's setup, unless they've, there's somebody in. And I mean, they're not going to chain it round in one day's worth of training, are they? Let's be real, So it is what it is. But let's try and be positive here. When we've come up against teams that are high flying, we're there for the taking. Leeds, Ipswich, Norwich, Leicester, we've put in a performance, haven't we? And got something out of it apart from the Leicester game. That was the only one we didn't. So let's hope we get one of those type of performances on Tuesday. We due one.
We are due one.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. We absolutely are. Mick Shelley says, would you play the same 11 minus Ayala, which obviously had Hacks at the back? He says you can see him playing Peltz, Morrison, Hall, if defensively. Yeah, I would just straight swap. If this is all fitness dependent, Morrison in for Ayala, and off you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Fitness dependent. That's all you can do. And then obviously Ayala's only got a 1-match ban, so it'll be back for the Plymouth game, and you revert to that, because I think that's probably the situation we find ourselves in currently. That's probably our strongest back line, which is a not a great place to be in, is it? To be fair, well, it's not. You've got experience there in Sean Morrison, but he's not firing at all a lot of the time. Grant Hall takes 3 or 4 games to get back into the swing of it, and he's always got a howler in him, or seems to have while he's been playing for us. Peltz, with the greatest respect to Peltz, he reads the game really, really well, which is just as well because he's not the quickest person, and when he does find himself in an attacking position, he seems to have some sort of issue with putting the ball in the box, and he almost refuses to do it. So, that's, again, it's not ideal. But yeah, no, I think it's a straight swap out for Morrison with Ayala and go again.
Richard Brown says, "You watch now. We'll go on a 5-match unbeaten run."
Oh, please.
I'd love some of that positivity, Richard. To be honest with you.
100%.
CJ even says, "Would you an emphatic win?" Okay. Are we? In the sense that
But this is like what we were feeling on Saturday, isn't it? When we got back to 1-1, we all thought that we were going to win that match. Well, with them sat around me, including myself, thought we were going to win that match. So we have got some positive. We are half the glass full, even though we're in the position we're in.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's the hope that kills you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I've thought and said that so many times over the last 4 weeks, to be honest with you. Right, let's do some predictions and then we'll get out of here for now. Mick, Tuesday, 2-1 Rotherham?
Yes, of course.
Pen and pen's died, you can't have it. There you go, great. Joy, prediction for Tuesday?
I'm going to go with Mick. I'm going to say 2-1 Rotherham.
Hang on, Joy. On the nose.
I'm not. 2-0 West Brom. Yeah, I just that's where we are at the minute, isn't it? It'd be very wrong to turn it on. Let's hope we get a new guy in. Let's hope it brings up some positivity within the players. The players need that weight lifting off their shoulders desperately, and I think only a new manager can do this at this point. For the players that are not performing how they want. Let's go through some predictions. Gumbo says 4-1 to West Brom. Trav says 3-0 to us. John Morell says 2-0 to the Tesco bags. Martin Mill says 0-2 as well. Martin Holland says 2-2. Phil says 2-0. CJ says 1-0 to the Millers. Chris Page says 0-2 as well. Yeah.
Not a lot of positivity in there, is there? And listen, that's not
understandable.
Yeah.
Completely understandable. Yeah. But let's just say for a second that we do announce a new manager. Assuming it's not Steve Evans, then are we going to get a new manager bounce? I mean, if it's Steve Evans, you're definitely going to get a manager bounce. Won't you be just bouncing down the tunnel?
Anyway, moving on.
I said that's out of order. But yeah, it's entirely possible, isn't it?
It is, but then the no manager bounce normally comes from the stands, doesn't it? When he comes in, whoever it is, I mentioned earlier, fans will just be finally. It won't be God, we've got a new man. This is a new beginning. This is this that and the other. It's going to be finally.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that Lieberson seems a popular guy in football circles. So if it is him, I just hope he can, like I said, lift that weight off the players' shoulders and bring some man management, which is desperately needed.
It strikes me from what I've heard that he's a proper man manager. He's a person people, and he will deal with the players and get the players firing. Get these players firing, we'll be fine. Even from this position, we can get out of it with these players. I'm absolutely convinced of it. But it needs somebody to be able to get the best out of them, which is what every club says about the players. In it, I mean, that's not. Yeah, we'll see.
There we go. Thank you all for being with us. Make sure you subscribed if you haven't already on YouTube, but we've ticked over 1,300, so thank you. When there is an announcement, there will be an emergency podcast, whenever that may be. We will go from there. Hopefully tomorrow, the rumours, there's semi-strong rumours that it's going to be tomorrow, but this time last week, I think there was semi-strong rumours that they're going to something on Monday. It wasn't. Shocker. So we'll see how it goes. Joy, thank you for being with us tonight. It's been fun's not the right word. Cathartic it's been tonight.
Cool, you're welcome.
And thank you, Mick. Thank you very much.
Yeah, whatever.
Thank you all for being with us. Thank you all for those last few weeks, and we will be back soon. There'll probably be a scouting report, probably Monday night, Tuesday morning as well. Either way, we'll speak to a West Brom fan because we've got that one booked in. So keep an eye out for that as well. We'll get a bit of a breakdown for those as well. And if you're on iTunes or Spotify, again, make sure you're subscribed on there and give us a 5-star rating wherever it allows you to do so. Thank you, Mick. Thank you, Joy. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We will see you next time. And up the Millers.
Up the Millers.
Slides into Wales. Wales through a goal. Slots it beyond Foderingham. And the Millers are in front in the South Yorkshire derby. And for the first time in 42 years, Rotherham United win at Bramall Lane. On the edge of the box for Duffy. He can hit them. And he does. Oh!